It's safe to say that I'm a bit of an expert when it comes to the BMW 7 Series. To date, we've featured 9 different models, including the 1997 E38, 2007 E65 Alpina, 2010 F02, and recently the G12 7 Series like this 2020 BMW 750Li xDrive. This LCI or Life Cycle Impulse brings a slight exterior refresh to BMW's flagship luxury sedan. We're going over absolutely everything you need to know if you're in the market for the facelift ultimate driving machine. This is actually the 4th G12 BMW 7 Series we've featured. There has not been a single vehicle we've done on test drive that we have featured more than this generation, and there isn't a nameplate that we haven't featured more than the 7 Series. This is the 10th 7 Series that we've featured, and we've done probably about 40 videos, including a 7 Series in them, which is why I say I'm a bit of an expert. I don't know everything about them, but I do know quite a bit, and which is why we like to feature cars like this. So we're going to be going over absolutely everything you need to know about this particular vehicle, and even though we should be doing a snapshot, just going over the facelift changes, the previous video that we did on the 2018 BMW M760Li xDrive was actually more of a retrospective since we compared it with my 2001 7 Series. So you could see that if you wanted to. You could go back. A lot of the stuff is still the same, but we're going to be going over what's different with this and still giving you a full tour and review of one of the most luxurious vehicles you could buy today under $200,000 Canadian. Now, if you're interested, you can take a look at the back of the vehicle. The M760Li's license plate from last year was BMW 971. We've now got 976. And we also have the exact same winter tires from last year. These were the same BMW individual rims that were on that M760Li, and they've already swapped over 2 winters for this one. Even though we're just over halfway through October now, they have swapped them over. So that's just some little housekeeping stuff if you pay attention to the license plates on the back of these vehicles. Now, there's a lot that comes with this facelift. Believe it or not, the inside hasn't changed too much. We're going to go over that, but the exterior has seen the biggest changes. It's almost completely redesigned on the outside, including the new larger grille found on the X7. Now, a lot of people complain of the size of this grille, and I'll agree it is big, 40% larger. It's quite a bit. I understand why BMW is doing this, and I will defend it because personally, I think the car looks fantastic. It takes some getting used to, but much like the E65 when it came out, it was a controversial design. A lot of people went back and bought the E38 in 2002 because they liked the look of the old one more. I could see that being the same case with the pre-LCI version of this. The 2018s and 2019s look really good, but I do like it. There's a reason for that larger grille. As I mentioned, it is the same size as the X7. BMW is trying to position it so the bigger the kidney grille, the bigger the vehicle, the higher up in their food chain the vehicle ultimately is. So the 7 Series having the same size grille as the X7 makes sense. But something that nobody really ever talks about when they complain about the grille is the cars need it. Drive a modern BMW, drive a modern BMW V8, and you'll understand why it needs more airflow. I'm driving this car in 10 degrees Celsius weather. When I put it in the garage after use for maybe 20 minutes in comfort mode, the fans are still running because the engine is so hot. It needs the extra cooling. Now, yes, the top inch or so of the kidney grille is not actually functional. It's filled in, so you could argue that that could be a little bit smaller, but for the most part, it needs that extra cooling ability to make this engine run more efficiently. I like it. Sue me. So let's talk about the rest of it though. The front end has changed as well, along with a new front bumper, hood, headlights, front fenders, rear bumper trim, the rear lights, and the side chrome trim are all new on this vehicle. BMW says the surfacing of the front is 2 inches taller at its highest point, and I personally find that the design of this is much more squared off than it was on the pre-LCI version. If you look back at the E38, it was a very squared off vehicle. This kind of has that same look to it. And back to that kidney grille, as I said, 40% larger than the outgoing version of this, but it's also one full piece. Before, BMW would use 2 individual pieces for the kidney grills. Now it is all one large unit. Just something to note. It does have the active grille shutters in there to open or close based on where you're driving, how you're driving, and what kind of cooling the engine needs. And we saw something like that on most of the vehicles we featured from BMW recently. The headlights are slender over the previous generation, and now the laser lights are available on the 7 Series with the full adaptive LED setup from before. They work really well. The laser lights we talked about on the X5, and I couldn't tell a difference with it, but we will be doing more testing with it as this vehicle does have them equipped. The rear end, though, is where I think things get really exciting. The back looks fantastic. BMW is using a new 3-dimensional LED taillight system. They say it's 36 millimeters slimmer than the pre-facelift 7 Series, and there's also a 5 millimeter wide light strip that runs across the full width of the tailgate, connecting the rear lights together. It looks so good. You should be able to see it pretty well on the footage that we have. We captured that at night. This car has a commanding presence when it's on the road, whether you're inside of it or outside. Really great look. I love the back end of this. I'm excited to see this on future models from BMW, although as it stands right now, this will be the only vehicle in their lineup with that sort of setup. With the LCI, there are new paint options available, including this Donington gray metallic paint. Looks really sharp. I wish we had a silver E38 to be able to compare side by side, but I think it looks really good. And I'm usually not a big fan of these silver or gray cars, but man, it looks really, really nice. Now don't worry, our friends at BMW haven't just worked on the exterior, they've also made improvements underneath the hood. This is a updated 4.4 liter V8 engine, an N63 B44 T3. It's the same engine found in the M50i series vehicles, including the M850i we featured earlier this year, as well as the M550i we're going to be featuring in a few weeks, the X7 M50i, X6 M50i, and the X5 M50i. All use the same engine. This one does not get an M Performance version, but it is the same engine, producing 523 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque. 80 more horsepower than the previous 750Li and 74 pound-feet more of torque. It is a twin-scroll bi-turbo engine, and BMW says this will do 0 to 100 kilometers in 4.1 seconds. It also uses an 8-speed sport Steptronic transmission with wider gear ratios spread out for more efficiency. It also has acoustic improvements to help with the overall noise of the vehicle, and I have to say, when you're driving it, you can hear almost nothing of the outside world. Now, this vehicle has the Active Comfort Drive system that helps reduce the rolling movements at the front and rear axles with a 2-axle air suspension and electronically controlled dampers with active roll stabilizers, and an anticipatory chassis control system which learns from your driving style and analysis readings, as well as the navigation data, and a set of stereo cameras in the windscreen to be able to see the road ahead of you, and we'll show you on the road how it compares. There are some areas here in Quebec that we usually drive along that you can see even on our video equipment how bad the roads are. This thing drives over them like there's nothing there. It's incredible. Our test vehicle comes very well equipped with a number of packages and options. This is not fully loaded, and I mean, it is hard to have a fully loaded BMW 7 Series, but I'll go over the packages specified on this specific vehicle. $4,500 Canadian for the dynamic handling package, which adds integral active steering, which is 4-wheel steering, and that active comfort drive with road preview. We just talked about that. $2,000 for the advanced driver assistance package, which adds traffic jam assistant, driver assistant professional, steering and lane control, front cross traffic alert, active cruise control with stop and go, and lane keep assistant. $1,500 for the BMW laser light headlights. You can probably skip that here in Canada. $750 for the M Sport brakes, and $600 for the remote control parking, which is something that we talked about with the M760Li last year. And if you follow me on Instagram at NiallLivesey, you'll have seen an Instagram story of me pulling this vehicle out to film this segment that you're watching right now. Now, the interior has also received a number of improvements and changes over the pre-facelift. They're a little bit more subtle, but we're going to go over them as well. On the inside, we find the new BMW Individual Amarone full merino leather. It features extended quilting and contrast stitching and piping. There's new interior wood trims. This one has the fine line black wood with the metal effect. BMW says that the trim and instrument cluster panels chrome surrounds that border around them are made individually for each car to ensure that their dimensions match down to the millimeter. If that's not luxury, I don't know what is. They've also added a new stainless steel insert for the loading area of the trunk. They say it helps to add to the quality of the vehicle and make it feel a little bit more luxurious. And the M Sport package is standard for vehicles sold here in Canada, which means you get the BMW Individual Anthracite headliner, M leather steering wheel, M pedals, M driver footrest, and the M illuminated door sills. BMW says they've also optimized the shielding of the rear wheel arches for better rear cabin noise isolation, along with enhanced sound insulation in the B-pillar area, seat belt outlet covers, and the rear seat backrests. They have laminated windshield, side windows, and rear windows, which are 0.2 inches thicker and come on the executive package like this vehicle has here. There's a new updated wireless charging, which is now standard across the 7 Series lineup. That's been moved from inside the glove box to just in front of the cup holders. Works very well, very similar in fact to what we saw on the X5. BMW also says that the new ambient highlight is a feature on the B-pillar lights, combining the optional sun blinds to create atmospheric lighting effects. And BMW says when those vertically aligned lights are deactivated, they blend in better with the ambience with their quality smoked glass look to them. The last major change on the inside that people will notice is the new BMW Live Cockpit Professional. We saw that with the 8 Series and X5. It is a new design, replaces the old generation, which wasn't bad to begin with. We just have a more digitized version of their cluster. Now there's a number of packages on the inside of this vehicle to make your experience even better. $7,500 for the executive package. That adds those climate comfort windscreen and laminated windows, the side and rear sunshades, which are power operated, ventilated front seats, leather instrument panel, ambient air, massage front seats, ceramic iDrive controls, the Parking Assistant Plus with surround view, and the anthracite Alcantara headliner. Much nicer than just a regular anthracite one. You want to have that Alcantara. $5,250 gets you the Executive Lounge Tier 1. You get comfort rear seats with heat, ventilation, and massage, along with the BMW Touch Control tablet in the back and the armrest with all the controls for the power seats, along with the massage functionality on the right. You also have dual zone automatic climate control in the back, along with the dual zone in the front. $4,900 for the BMW individual leather seating package. I think it looks really nice. It's a very beautiful color in there. Nothing that we've seen before on a press vehicle. I really, really like it. $1,400 for the cooling box in the rear seat. This car's got a fridge. I mean, what more could you really want from it? $1,000 for the Sky Lounge panoramic sunroof. Awesome a feature to have. One that you can get on the 7 Series, but unfortunately not the X5 here in Canada. Big bummer there. And finally, $4,900 for the 16-speaker Bowers & Wilkins Diamond surround sound system. Really excellent audio replication out of that. Plus, they light up if you choose so through the menu systems in the iDrive controller. So the speaker grills themselves will come up. Looks great, sounds great, well worth the near $5,000 price for that. Base MSRP for this vehicle in Canada, $126,400. We have $34,300 with options, because why not? Bringing our total to $160,700 Canadian. So this is only about $25,000 less than the M760Li, and that had the rear tablets in the back with the 4-passenger seating, plus the V12 engine tuned by M Performance. So this is quite expensive compared to that. But then if you look at something like an S-Class, it's looking pretty good. But let's take this on the road now. We're going to talk about all of the road feel and all the driving impressions that we have. Continue to talk about what we think of the car's look, both inside and out, and everything else you absolutely need to know if you're in the market for the ultimate driving machine. I know you guys like seeing the performance stuff right away, but we have to actually drive the car for 10 uninterrupted minutes for the engine to get up to temperature before launch control will work on this vehicle. That's what the owner's manual says. We've already broken the vehicle, and it says, I think, like 6,000 kilometers on it or something. But we actually have to drive it uninterrupted for 10 kilometers, which on a driving segment, it takes quite a while. We don't usually drive that far because we're in town. We might do a kilometer or two. So we'll see how things go when we get sort of to the end of our driving segment, if we can do some launch control for you, because this car is pretty darn quick. 523 horsepower. If we think back to my E38, which always comes up whenever we're doing a vehicle like this, it had less than 300 horsepower. Even the V12 E38 had like 320 horsepower. This is crazy fast. A lot more power than the previous 750Li, and still nowhere close to the M760Li, but that makes sense. But they are putting more power in this, and like we said, this is the M50i series engine that they're using in pretty much every other vehicle that has an M50i designation. So you get the power, you have the luxury. There's really nothing that you're missing from this car. That's one of the things that I've thought about as I've been driving around. There's nothing that I'm missing from this. Maybe a little bit nicer voice control system. We tried a little bit of it with the Hey BMW system, and we'll probably do that. There we go. I don't want to actually use it right now, but because we are driving a 7 Series, we should be able to do a lot more than we were with something like that A-Class that we had. So if I say, hey BMW, put down the rear sunshade.
That function unfortunately can't be controlled by voice.
So there you can see. And for some reason now we've got a navigation. Hey BMW, cancel the navigation route. Oh no. Hey BMW, cancel the navigation route.
I've ended the guidance.
Oh boy. Okay, Mercedes is a little bit, a lot more ahead when it comes to voice to text, but whatever. I'm not really using that technology. The idea is to be comfortable and luxurious in here, which I certainly am. Seats are super comfortable. I love the quilting in here. Excellent color choice for this. Definitely a good update from last year. Not that there is a whole lot different in here, but they've made some small changes, which is what you would normally expect from an LCI 7 Series. You take a look back at pretty much any other vehicle from BMW's history that has had an LCI in the 7 Series lineup, very little ends up getting changed on the inside, so it's good. I mean, it worked. This generation has some of the best features in here, highest level of luxury. You could add more features to it. Would be nice with the wood grab handles, things like that are nice little additions that you can add to this. But for the most part, you get absolutely everything that you would want. And again, that goes back to what I was saying. There's nothing in this car I could really ask for. The voice text stuff, I don't really care about. I mean, I can control everything, and because there's physical buttons for pretty much everything, you don't have to worry too much about it. I'm very happy with it. Let's talk a little bit about this engine and power. We talked about this recently. BMW has had to switch all of their engines over to a system that doesn't allow you to completely override the auto stop start system permanently. Older vehicles from BMW, you could just push the button and literally never have to click it ever again. But with this newest generation of engines, they've had to do it for emission standards. Every time you start the car, the stop start system is activated. You put it into sport mode at least, it will deactivate it, but every time you do have to push it. So I'll usually start the car and then immediately push the button underneath it. I don't usually drive in sport mode. I do like it in comfort mode, but you do have a number of options here: adaptive, Eco Pro, sport, and comfort. You can put it into sport mode, put the transmission in sport as well, get that traditional BMW performance experience, but I like to drive it just like this. It's good enough. We're also going to be going over the suspension system on this vehicle, that adaptive system that will predict how the suspension should react to upcoming road conditions. Works incredibly well. We've tested it, and we're going to be showing you on screen how we can test it. You can't really get the full experience unless you try it yourself, but I can tell you I have tested it on one particular patch of road that even on something like the Cadillac Escalade that we drove last week, you can feel it quite a bit. With this, you don't feel anything at all. Really well done, worth the price, and that's part of the reason why you're still going up to a luxury vehicle. It's something that we've talked about a lot on Test Drive recently. A lot of vehicles have some of the same features and luxuries in the consumer segment. Now you can get a leather or leatherette dashboard, ventilated and heated seats, even massaging seats on some of the consumer grade vehicles now. But it's the enhanced luxury stuff that you don't really think of, like the heated armrests or the fridge in the back or the abundance of ambient lighting in here, or that suspension system. You can't find that outside of the luxury market. It's pretty much exclusive to this. So if you want those features, if you want a transmission that uses the navigation system to determine when it should be shifting, you have to go with a BMW Mercedes product. You have to go with a luxury vehicle because that's where the money is. That's how you get $160,000 out of somebody for a vehicle like the 7 Series. It's worth that price if you're looking for these ultimate small luxury features that just make life so much better. All right, well, unfortunately, we have not done even close to our 10 kilometers to do the launch control, but we'll just go from a dig. Oh yeah, look at that. 100. Man, this thing is quick. Put it back into, I'm gonna put it into adaptive mode this time, but I'm gonna turn the transmission back into normal mode just because I don't really want to waste gas. This car is super efficient. When we talked about with the transmission, how they've re-geared this Steptronic transmission, it makes a difference. I'm impressed beyond belief with the fuel economy we did on the test loop. We'll talk about that as we wrap up. And I know it's usually not top of mind when it comes to a vehicle like this. If you're spending $160,000 on it, Often people don't care as much about fuel economy because it's such a small amount based on how expensive the vehicle ultimately is that the fuel doesn't really factor in to buying consideration. However, you will get excellent fuel economy with this if you drive it normally, which you should. I mean, it's not an M performance vehicle, so these cars should be driven pretty normally. And I have to say, you'll be very impressed with the fuel economy. There's a lot of other things going on with this vehicle, like the integral active steering makes steering a lot easier with the way that it's set up, and that suspension system, which we'll be going over again in a couple minutes. But everything about this makes life relaxing. You've got the ionizer in here, you have the perfume settings, massaging seats, heat, ventilation, armrests, heated seats, heated steering wheel. Everything about it makes life great, and that's why I love driving these vehicles. Interior sound, excellent as well. We're on pretty rough roads here on our county roads, and you can hear not too bad at all. Maybe not so much on the microphone because our equipment doesn't pick up things the exact way that your ears do, but when you're in here, it is very, very quiet. Helps with the laminated glass, gives you a little bit extra protection from the outside sound, and also the engine and transmission, excellent sound, no real noise pollution whatsoever. I can't hear the transmission doing anything, and even the engine is very quiet along with the exhaust. Even in sport mode, it doesn't do a whole lot because this isn't meant to be a performance car. Yeah, it's still a BMW, but it's not meant to be balls to the wall. It's really refined, and what I like about it. And we're going to be going over that bump. We're going to use some movie magic here. We're going to cut over to another vehicle that we're going to be testing. We're going to go over the same two places with the cameras, so you can see, hopefully, on video how it looks and how it feels if you're driving this compared to a regular vehicle. So first, we're going to go over in our other vehicle. Now, we are filming this in a 2020 BMW i3 range extender. We actually planned to do it in the BMW Z4 M40i, but whatever. The point is, we're doing this in here. We're going to go over the exact same stuff in this, and then following it up with the G12. So here's us going over a decent set of train tracks here with the i3. Not too bad. And now we're going to go over in this 7 Series. Oh man, it's like nothing incredible. Now this bump is probably one of the worst ones you could ever imagine. It's like a sewer underneath the road. Let's do it now in the BMW i3. Oh my God. So here it is in the 7 Series. Did I just hit something? No, barely. Oh my, and you can see on our other vehicle that when you hit it, you feel it almost nothing. It's like hitting a very small divot in the road with any other car. And again, that's one of the reasons why you're buying something like the 7 Series. You're just not going to get that from a consumer grade car. It's why you have to go up to something like this, and why it just makes driving a vehicle like this so great. So I'll give you a little idea of the performance on this. We're in sport mode, actual manual shift mode now for the transmission. Take it through our little slalom area here. I don't know what you want to call it, but we're going to go through here. You can see a little bit on the camera how the integral active steering works. Just because I'm barely moving my hands around the wheel, it's really good. As we go around here, oh yeah, hugs those corners so well, and it makes you realize how good this car performs and handles, because it doesn't actually feel like you're driving a 7 Series. This car is so big, it doesn't feel that way. It's very agile and nimble with the entire setup, the engine performance, transmission, suspension, everything goes in to make this car feel a lot more agile than it really should. Well, we have done more than 10 kilometers now, so we will try launch control. Again, you have to put the car into, it should be sport mode. It doesn't actually say there, it just says the transmission in sport mode. It says to put the traction control into DCS off, which it is. Foot as far on the brake as possible. Foot on the gas as hard as possible. A checker will come up and tell you that we're ready. Well, it wasn't there. Oh, holy crap. 100. Wow. That thing is insanely quick. Oh, man. And this is just a regular 7 Series. And really, I mean, it's not a regular 7 Series. Let's be honest here, right? We get sort of the best of the best when it comes to the North American market. Over in Europe, you can have smaller engines. But, I mean, holy, 750Li does incredibly well. This type of performance, was reserved for something like an E65 Alpina, like we did back in 2007. And I get this with like, the base model essentially. Fantastic stuff. I promised we'd talk about the fuel economy, so here we go. The 2020 BMW 750Li xDrive completed our 100 kilometer test loop in 8.5 liters per 100 kilometers, or 27.7 US miles per gallon in Eco Pro mode, and our 786 kilometer week finished off at 13.3 liters per 100 kilometers, or 17.7 mpg, mostly in Comfort Plus mode, but a lot of in-town driving. Once we start testing other full-size luxury sedans through our test loop, we'll be able to compare more directly. Now, unlike last year where I mentioned we didn't have much to base the M760Li on in terms of likes and dislikes, we have a lot more experience to compare with this time around. There's a lot to like about this 7 Series, and if we think about ultimate luxury experience, there are some key takeaways about this LCI model. First off, I personally like the exterior design. The rear end is perfection, and that large kidney grille grew on me over the week. Trust me, this engine needs ample cooling, which is achieved through this larger grille. It's not a class favorite, but I do like it a lot. The engine performance is also great, with considerably more power over the previous model year, but more importantly, more power over the 2019 Mercedes-Benz S560 4MATIC. BMW's Adaptive Road Preview suspension is also an excellent feature, which we demonstrated during our driving segment. It made driving a lot more relaxing and can help reduce some of your own physical fatigue when driving on uneven roads. BMW's interior design, especially the driver-focused center console, provides a perfect blend of digital and analog with ample physical buttons for heating and audio controls, without hiding controls behind menus and screens. This continues with the new interior trim and leather options, giving buyers more choice for customization and that quality feel of luxury that you'd expect from a BMW 7 Series. Finally, the improvements BMW has made to the interior road noise control are noticeable, with better rear seat sound insulation and overall cabin quietness for all passengers. Small changes help to refine an already excellent vehicle, and it shows that BMW works hard to make changes that buyers won't necessarily see, but will benefit from nonetheless. There are some areas for improvement though. While we haven't driven the current W222 Mercedes-Benz S-Class, we have taken a spin a number of their newest models. BMW's voice control system is far behind MBUX, with slow response times and limited overall vehicle control. Manufacturers seem to be moving in this direction, and BMW will have to keep up. While the Bowers & Wilkins audio system was exceptionally good, at 16 speakers it's just in line with what the E-Class had to offer at the mid-level, but falls behind the top-end Burmester high-end 3D surround sound system available on the S-Class, which has a 1190 watt amp, a 400 watt subwoofer, and a total of 26 speakers with VIP settings for individual seat experiences. BMW's ambient lighting are also behind those of Mercedes-Benz, offering only a half dozen colors mixed with white accents, while Mercedes provides up to 64 colors with multiple blended profiles even on their entry-level A-Class. Another area BMW can improve on when looking at the direct competitors. And finally, we're once again disappointed by the laser light option. Testing it during the darkest part of the night on empty roads still provided us without a discernible conclusion between the regular LED high beams found on other BMW models or when the lasers were actually active. Once again, we recommend skipping this option. Overall though, the 2020 BMW 750Li xDrive is a solid LCI update to an already excellent generation. Die-hard BMW enthusiasts might not agree with us, but those who are in the market to lease a new 7 Series will find this generation goes above and beyond to retain the title of the ultimate driving machine.